So I'm going to give you a short list of things that, as I have watched Washington for the last 11 years, bother me. My guess is they bother you as well. You hear everyone, every politician that gets up and gives a speech talks about our children and our grandchildren. You know, no, I care about our children and our grandchildren. Okay, fine. So are you putting your money where your mouth is? Or are you just being another windbag talking about something you're really not going to do anything about? No. Because as I examine the hard truth of Washington Day, there's far more concern with holding on to a chairmanship or acquiring a chairmanship than there is doing something good for our children and our grandchildren. There's so many issues. It is true, to accumulate $100 billion worth of debt every single month and pass that debt and the interest of that debt onto our grandchildren and our children, it's wrong. And everyone who looks at the facts knows that it's going to take budget cuts and it's going to take revenue increases to solve the problem. But we've just witnessed, we don't know what the results are, a Republican primary where, again, they're promising not to do anything on the tax side. Now recall, in 1990, and I'll talk about it a lot in this campaign, that George Herbert Walker Bush, who got far too little credit for balancing the budget, said this: "I know I said no new taxes raised my lips, but voodoo economics will not work. It never has worked and it won't work. And I'll support..." I didn't expect that to be a good line, that good of a line when I wrote it. Shows I can't always read my audience. So anyway, Bush said, "I'll support tax increases if the Democrats agree to spending restraint," and we did. And all we did in '93 and '97 was to amend that act. And by the end of the century, we were paying off debt, heading to be the largest creditor nation on earth. That was the status quo when I left on the 2nd of January 2001. But most importantly, and I'll bring this to this campaign, it isn't just about balancing the budget. In the 1990s, the rates of poverty in the United States of America went down. In the 1990s, median family income went up. And if those two things aren't happening, I don't care if the budget is balanced. This country is going to change in ways that nobody is going to like. Democracy has to offer hope and promise to all Americans, otherwise it's not well functioning. So I will give you another issue that probably isn't as good an applause line. You cannot say that you care about economic and social justice and say that the two most important programs that we have today, Social Security and Medicare, don't have to be changed. Because right now, everybody under the age of 40 is either going to have substantial cuts in their benefits or big increases in taxes for their children. That's current law. It isn't right. It isn't fair. And we have to make a change in ways that preserve, particularly for those who are most vulnerable, preserves the program. Both these programs have become more important than they were 10 years ago as a result of what's going on in the marketplace. But it isn't right to presume that people over the age of 65 cannot take the truth about what these two programs are and the changes that have to be made if their children and grandchildren are as important as we say they are when we give our speeches. Now I'll mention another issue that, and all these in some ways are sort of losing political issues. I'll mention another one that people right now become afraid to do anything about. It's climate change. Look, we know the climate's it's getting warmer. All we have to do, you only need high school chemistry. You don't need to be a Nobel laureate to understand the science of this. We're pushing close to 400 parts per million of carbon, and it's going to be 500 in another 10 or 15 years. And it gets to 500. The semi-arid high plains are going to be arid. And I know from the, again, watching the primary, that the Republicans think that cap and trade is a job-killing proposal. If you think cap and trade is a job-killing proposal, wait till you see this state go from semi-arid to arid. Look what happened in Texas last year. $9 billion worth of economic value were destroyed as a consequence of that drought. Now, I don't know what the answer is at the moment, but I know one of the answers, the most important answer that isn't correct, is doing nothing. Because if we do nothing on this one, of all the issues, we do nothing on this one, you can't get it back. It'll take 1,000 years to get it back. It's not like the other two problems. And so we'll talk about this a lot in this campaign. Anyway, my prescription here, I see I've got like 14 additional pages, and since I gave my son very good advice at the beginning, I'm now gonna give Paul Johnson heartburn by folding this thing up. Look, I do think fundamentally that the rules of Washington have to change. I think George Norris was 100% right. I have a great deal of respect for men and women who serve in the Congress, but I have almost no hope, and strike almost, I have no hope that they're going to be able to change these rules on their own. I do think it's time for us to actually examine whether or not our Constitution doesn't need to change. And I will propose in this campaign that we change it to eliminate the caucuses, much like the nonpartisan legislature is. I will propose that we change it in a fashion that imposes some kind of limitation of terms. It has not been a problem, as was predicted for the Nebraska legislature. And I will most importantly propose, and you cannot do the first two without doing the third, that we change our Constitution and prohibit these unlimited, undiagnosed spending that Citizens United. We have to overturn. The Citizens United decision has to be overturned. The decision-making process is moving further and further away from all of us. And it may be in this campaign that Deb Fischer wins. And no one's going to doubt why she won. It's because Joe Ricketts put a very impressive advertisement on television. That's why it happened. And you have to wonder, as you do in all these sorts of things, when he calls on her, what's he going to get? What does he want? Does he want lower taxes? Probably. Does he want less regulation? Probably. Does he want lower taxes for himself and less regulation for himself? Probably. And when you put that kind of money up, the question is going to occur. And it's not just in her campaign, but it's all across. It's likely there's going to be $15 to $20 million spent in this race. Not by people here, not by people who are trying to fund campaigns, but people who are trying to either get or hold on to the majority. It's not right, and it's going to ruin democracy if we don't change it. Anyway. Anyway, I want to, I think, stop here. I'll say it again. First of all, I'm going to thank Sarah, and I'm going to thank my extended family as well. They had to endure me saying I just could not sit on the sidelines and not become a candidate, not come home and run for this seat. I'll close by saying this. I love Nebraska. I love the people. I love the place. I love the values of the state. And I want to thank you all for coming out this evening. And I look forward to a very vigorous campaign between now and 6th of November. Thank you very much.